Howdy all you delicious people, I'm here today to review Power Rangers episodes. So, we are doing 3 episodes that are crossover events. We, of course, have Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue in every single one of them, and we also have Power Rangers Lost Galaxy and Power Rangers Time Force and Time Force being in one of these episodes. So, we are to go on and cover Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue episodes 29 and 30, Trakeena's Revenge, and we are also covering Power Rangers Time Force episode 13, Time for Lightspeed. I almost said Lifespeed there. So, what goes on in these episodes? We have the Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue episodes, and we have Leo, who is to have come from Miranoi to warn the Lightspeed Rescue Rangers that Trakeena is coming back to try and get her power back and to transform into this monstrous being, but it ends up having her excel into something even much more terrifying. So we have our Rangers that need to go on and need to go into their Megazords, but even further, need to combine their Megazords together to go on to try and defeat this villain of this two-part story, which is Trakeena's Revenge. We go on to also tie in Olympus and Queen Shira, or Queen Ben Shira, in these 2 episodes. And so, like, I thought what all was going on here was to be pretty decent. We have a big chunk of this story where we have it be like this girl Heather and Carter, and we have the Lost Galaxy Rangers that kind of slowly but surely come back into the show. And so that, of course, was really interesting to kind of play out there. And so in the Time Force episode, Time for Lightspeed, we go on to have Vampira that is to resurrect herself, as well as a bunch of demon hunters, to make her way into this museum to try to take this solar amulet. She then realizes that she cannot achieve being able to get this solar amulet, so she needs the help of Ransik, and so we then have both of them working together, and then that has the attention of both Time Force and Lightspeed Rescue to need to work together, and come to find out, we have Vampira that tries to unleash a super demon out in the world, and we have the Rangers, all 12 of them, try and fight off this threat, hopefully to win, because wouldn't you think in a crossover, it would be surprising if I ever were to have seen a crossover episode where the Power Rangers lose. After all the combining of Zords, and after all the stuff that they slammed together, it would be hilarious to go on and see that the Power Rangers would still lose this crossover. Maybe that would be a season finale, like a really interesting season finale, to see this massive crossover, to still see the Power Rangers lose everything by the end of it. Like, that would really just blow people's minds. Like, whoa, like, Power Rangers lose at the end of this crossover, and they lose big, and like, oh my god. But again, like, that would be a huge cliffhanger for the following season. But yeah, like, I don't think they've ever gone on and done that for a show to kind of finish it up. But that would be a very interesting way to kind of finish up a season. But so anyways, let's go on, and I think it's about that time to just go into the Double 5 time territory. All these episodes were, I would say that they're all like good episodes, thumbs up episodes. Every time I would go on and I would see like some Lightspeed rescue episode, it's always a very Carter focused thing, and it's always kind of funny to always see Carter in every single one of these crossover events. He's always the one in like the early part of the episode. It's like, well, hey, I'm Carter Hall. I uh, I am the Lightspeed Rescue Ranger, and I'm gonna go on and I'm gonna need your assistance. Or Carter Grayson, my bad. I was looking for the name because I'm like, what is Carter Hall? Carter Hall is a completely different person. So Carter Grayson, my bad. So with that said, let's go on and let's double five this bad boy up. And let's get into spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time again. We spoil these episodes. So in the very beginning of this, we of course have Miranoi. Miranoi is a green, goofy-looking planet, and it really just is. And it's the home of the Quasar Sabers that are just stuck in those rocks, like the King Arthur thing. Every single time, we always have to see the Lost Galaxy characters. They have to whip out those swords from that rock. I don't know why, but it always is what it is. Like, look at the Forever Red episode, where we have Leo that whips out that saber and is like, yeah, like, I'm gonna go out there and be in this team up, because I'm gonna have to morph. Let's do it. Anyways, so we have Leo who goes on to find these ghouls. And so he tries to go on and fight them off. We all of a sudden have Triskull that arrives as like, oh, the Red Ranger. And so both Triskull and both the ghouls leave to go to Earth. Specifically, Mariner Bay, because of course that is the home of the Lightspeed Rescue Rangers. So, next thing we see is a mother and a daughter who are playing hide and seek in a park, bizarrely. So, we have a kid named Heather who is hiding from her mother, and we have Heather's mother is like, I don't know where my kid's at, like, hopefully I can find her somewhere, hopefully she's not in this brush, and, oh, I see her shoes, oh, I'm gonna get this kid, yeah, and we all of a sudden have Heather's mom that kind of moves this brush to realize there's the shoes there, but not her kid. We all of a sudden wildly have Heather that goes on and surprises her mother, almost attacking her, it seems, and catching Heather's mom off guard, because I didn't go on and go through IMDb and see if there was a legit name for either one of her parents, Heather, and I didn't think that Heather's mom and dad was going to be a huge focus in this episode, like it almost is. So, we have Heather that is to surprise her mom, and Heather's mom's like, wow, like, you're really good at hide and seek. And Heather goes on, I'm like, well, no, I just had a really good writer. Anyways. So, next up we go on to the rescue rover that is making its way, I'm assuming, to this hospital, because I think we end up seeing, like, a number of, like, patients that the Rangers are trying to grab and trying to rescue at light speed, hopefully, and we have them trying to rescue, and, like, this place is on fire, and we all of a sudden have the Green Ranger Joel, who brings in his Arrow Rescue 3 Zord, and it's to kind of fly by and hopefully douse this building to help out. But it also seems that he is to fly by, like, way too much in an almost dangerous way. To where Carter's like, hey, what are you doing? Like, you hot dogging over there? Like, and so we have Joel that leaves his Zord to then be signing all these autographs, and we have Carter that asks Joel, it's like, well, hey, like, do you think that you're the center of her attention? And Joel is like, no, I just feel like it always happens that way. And we had Joel, who was to release from his Zord, all these like 8x10s with his autograph on it. And I'm like, man, this guy should have kept all of those papers and could have sold them on eBay for a good chunk of change. But maybe he probably didn't. But that would have been the one thing I would have kept from this show. So, we come to find Heather and her mother going to this building that her father is supposed to be in. And I was almost getting like Die Hard vibes from this from this episode. It was weird. So we have Heather and her mother going into this building just for Heather's mom to get grabbed by these ghouls, and Heather runs off because she has watched too much Power Rangers to know, like, oh, those are the Power Rangers, like, evil minions. I'm gonna peace out. I'm deucing. And so Heather's mom finds within this kind of small glass cylinder, she finds her husband kind of banging on this glass cylinder. It's kind of like in the Superman comics when Brainiac would go on and like shrink down Kandor and put into this kind of glass like snowball like case or snow globe like casing. It's kind of similar to that in a way. So we have all these people that are kind of snow globed out, so to speak. But so they're kind of the size of action figures is how they get shrunk down. So we find that Heather's mom is to be put into one of these glass cylinders and is to go on and have her life energy drained from her. So we have Tri-Skull realize that Heather is causing a bunch of commotion downstairs of this building. So Tri-Skull is going on and talking to what we'd have to assume is Trakina, even though we can't tell really well. And Tri-Skull is stating, like, okay, like, well, like, we're pretty close to being done here. And so Trakina is like, well, good. So we have Tri-Skull who realizes he's going to need to retrieve Heather for her to stop making such a fuss. So we have him come as a office security down to this location where Heather is. And so we have Heather talking to this woman at this head desk and sitting like, well, yeah, like, my mom ended up getting taken by these monsters. And this woman's like, okay, just go away. So we have this anyways, we have this office security man that is to be disguised as, or really be Tri-Skull. So he comes in and he's looking at Heather. It's like, well, hey, like, I believe your story, kid. How about we go to where your mother was and we'll try and retrieve her? So that all is to be just a trap to have Heather be kind of shoved in this elevator with all these ghouls. And Heather knows better because, again, she's seen too many Power Rangers episodes. She knew that this was a trap all along. And so Heather runs away. So we go on and have Tri-Skull like, dude, I have better things to do with my life. Instead of chasing a kid all around this place. Like, I have people to talk to. So we have Tri-Skull who goes on and is talking to Olympus and is stating that there is almost enough life energy to restore Queen Banshira's power. And Olympus is like, I want it all. Like, I want everything. Like, I don't want almost. Almost enough? No. Like, I want all. But Olympus goes on and pays Tri-Skull in gold bullion. This weird, goofy treasure chest. Why do monsters need gold coins for? I never understood that. I had an episode where Diva Talks was to have a bunch of gold coins, and she would have like a worth of like 10 million in gold coins, but I never really understood what the gold coins were. Is that like space currency? In some other Power Rangers season, did they make sense of the gold coins? Did somebody have to convert their hard-earned cash to gold coins somewhere? Is it just that people really thoroughly enjoy the whole visual of a treasure chest full of gold coins, that just has to be a visual that keeps being put into the show? How many questions can I ask here? I don't know. but it's interesting. So Olympus leaves, and like he feels it's like, well, like this guy is really just going on and just kind of like slowly getting to the finish line here. Like, speed it up there, bucko. So when Olympus leaves, we have Triskull, who is talking to Trakina, and Trakina is stating, it's like, well, hey, like, they don't know that instead of them, like, they're never going to go on and get this life energy, I'm going to take it and I'm going to use it to power my own beings. So Olympus gave them that gold for nothing, and you would have thought Olympus would have been like, dude, I want my gold back. But so we have Carter that is kind of make his way through the city because he has nothing better to do, and all of a sudden he bumps into Heather that is all of a sudden all emotional and crying and whichever, and Carter's like, well, hey, like, what's going on there, kid? And Heather goes on and explains to Carter what it all happened to him. I'm not going to re-explain everything. So we have Carter that's like, what a tale, kid. What a spin of yarn that you've given me here. And so Heather's like, you don't believe me. And so we all of a sudden have this office security guy who comes to Carter and is talking to Carter. And Carter sees this office security guy as a very shady dude. And so when Carter is to talk to this office security guy and he goes away, Carter then looks at Heather and is like, you know what, I do believe your story. And we're going to go on and we're going to figure this out. So as well as it seems that Heather is almost going to get like Power Ranger deputized in this episode also, which I thought was so interesting. So whatever happened to Heather, I would like to have seen somewhere down the road where they would have brought Heather back and she would have became a Power Ranger. Wouldn't that have been cool? Because what was the point of her going on and getting, like, man, there are so many Power Ranger stories that they could interweave within the show to say, like, oh yeah, that was that same character. It could have been just some random person that just comes back as another character, and it's like, oh yeah, I do have a whole history with the Power Rangers because I was deputized, and like, oh my god, wow, that is that same girl, oh wow, or whatever. Like, they could kind of rewrite characters back into the show. Like Nico, like the kid that was the Phantom, like, Ranger kid. Like, there's a ton of young kids that they can kind of age up or whatever and just say, like, okay, here are the new Power Rangers in this season. And they were all tied from all of these kids from all of these past seasons. And that would be kind of cool. Even though you would probably have to go on and pay all of those people that money to... Yeah, I was the person who came up with Nico. Okay, pay him off. Oh, I was the person who came up with Heather. Pay that person off. And so on and so forth. So maybe that's the reason why they don't do that. But still. Moving on. So we have the rest of the Lightspeed Rescue Rangers that are all in the Rescue Rover. And we have Chad that is kind of asking the Rangers, like, hey, you guys up for a dive? And Joel is sitting like, no, like, the water's too salty. And and too blue, and I'm more of a green guy. No, he just complains about it being too salty and too cold and too whatever. So we come to find that the rescue rover is to find a lost galaxy ranger with a quasar saber. The first thing that they end up seeing is like the quasar saber, and then they realize that it's Leo. Oh my god, this is the lost galaxy ranger. Hey, high five everybody. We found a we found a ranger. Isn't this great? This means crossover. So we go on to state that Leo had come from Miranoi, and so we have him kind of tell the Rangers that they are in danger, and he's come here to try to help them out. So we have Carter and Heather that make their way back to this building to kind of check on things, and all of a sudden they are surrounded by ghouls. And so while Carter goes on to fight all these ghouls, and we of course have Heather that's kind of waiting in the wings, just kind of like, hopefully Carter comes out of this okay, but he's getting way outnumbered. So we all of a sudden have the blue and yellow Lost Galaxy Rangers come to help out Carter, who is both Kai and Maya. And so we, of course, end up having them kind of take down all these ghouls. And then Carter's like, oh my god, you guys are the Lost Galaxy Rangers. Like, wow, isn't this sweet? This definitely means crossover, right? Anyways, I'm just having fun. So we go on to have Carter that's like, okay, we need to go to the Lightspeed Aqua Base to just kind of like, evidently we need to like go on and kind of trade information here. So everybody goes to the Lightspeed Aqua Base, and so we end up having Leo talk to all the Rangers and tell them that Trakina was in the Lost Galaxy show. Trakina was to mutate, and so we of course had Leo that had to armor up and wipe her out, but it seems that Trakina is somehow now back and is wanting to drain the life force out of people so that way she could mutate again and try and wipe out the Rangers yet again. Hence why this two-parter is to be called Trakina's Revenge. So we go on to have Carter, after kind of hearing this information from Leo, ends up taking Heather and is to kind of put her somewhere on the Aqua Base. And we have Heather who wants to come with, and Carter's like, well, like, I don't think I can do that. I don't think I can justify that. Like, you could get hurt. But so Heather is to go on and just demand that she comes with them, but like is to just maybe stay in the Ranger Rover, or the rescue rover. And so Carter is like, okay, you can come along with us. Chad is to kind of barge in with Carter talking to Heather. It's like, well, hey, we have new information. So, like, we have a new threat. Let's go. Like, hurry up. So we have the Rangers all making their way with the rover to get to Triskull. So the Rangers all go on and they all morph as they realize that this fight with Triskull is a trap. So we have Triskull that releases all these ghouls, and we have, of course, the red, yellow, and blue ranger going on to kind of morph as well, and they take their quasar sabers and they wipe out all the ghouls with their quasar sabers. So we have all the Lightspeed Rescue Rangers morph and the 3 Lightspeed Rescue Rangers that are here now. So we end up having Triskull, who wipes out every single one of the Rangers to where they all simultaneously demorph and they're all kind of down and they're all hurt. Heather is to leave the rescue rover to run off to Carter, like, hey, Carter, you alright? Because you're the only Ranger that I guess really matters, right? Everybody else, F off. But Carter, are you okay? I'm sorry, Carter. I'm sorry, but like, that's what it feels like. She just checked on the one Ranger that she knew, because she didn't know anybody else. So we go on and are to transition to Trakina. So Trakina is stating that it's like, well, yeah, like I can't wait to become green again, and I'm gonna take all this life energy, and I'm gonna mutate, and like, wouldn't it be grand? And all of a sudden, we have this little spy bat that is kind of watching in the background, and it's like, aha, the jig is up. So we have Olympius, who is talking to Queen Benshira at the Skull Cavern. And so Olympius is talking to the Queen and saying, like, well, hey, like, it's a good thing that we had that spy bat there, because we knew that Triskull was not going to go on and be helping us out here. It feels like he's helping out himself. So we have Olympius, who decides that he's going to go on and take this kind of dagger or this knife and poison it. And when it's the best time, he's going to use this against Trakina. So we go on to have let me pause here for 1 second. Alright, next we see the Quasar Sabers back in Miranoi, and I'm like, okay, like, who have we left out here? Who hasn't gone on and whipped out their sabers yet? And we have the Green Ranger, who is Damon, and we have Kendricks, who is the Pink Ranger. And I was kind of confused whether or not it was going to be Kendra or it was going to be the other Pink Ranger that I think was a Pink Ranger for a while, who was Astronema before. Yeah, so I was thinking of like, well, which one is it? But anyways, we have both Kendra and Damon who are to whip out their swords from Miranoi, and they're going to go into action here. So we have Carter that is to go on and tell Heather to go into that same building that her mother was in and pull the fire alarm. So Heather goes on and is to contemplate and look at this fire alarm, and she's looking at Carter, and Carter's like, like, yeah, do it. Do the thing that I need you to do. I would appreciate it. So Heather goes on and pulls the fire alarm, and so everyone leaves. And so we have this fire department that all comes in disguised as Power Rangers. So we have, of course, both Leo and both Carter that are disguised as firemen going into the building while the other Rangers just kind of kick back. And so they both end up morphing, making their way into this laboratory, and they're looking around. They're like, oh my god, like, like these people's life force or life energy were to get obviously drained. And so we all of a sudden have Leo and Carter surrounded by ghouls in this lab. So we go on to have all of a sudden both Green and Pink Rangers show up. I think we have a Battle Booster full power attack that happens somewhere in here when the Red Rangers are kind of fighting. So we end up having Trakina that shows herself here. And so we go on to have all of a sudden where Leo, Carter, Kendra, and Damon all get blasted from out of this building, and they're seemingly falling to their death because they are now unmorphed. We have the rescue rover that is to plop out this big, kind of quickly blown thing for the Rangers to all kind of smack into this padded thing. And so we end up seeing the Rangers individually fall at the same time. It's very weird. So you would think they would have fell at the same time, because anyways. But we go on to realize that now we're going to have the Rangers all morph yet again. So we have the Galaxy Rescue Rangers, like they all morph. So we have the Batlings attack. So we have at one point where the Green Rescue Ranger like repels off this wall and does this kind of cool attack. We have the Green Galaxy Ranger that gets stomped by Olympus, and we also have the Blue Ranger that gets blasted. So we have the Red Ranger who whips out his V-Lancer and blasts away. And so we have Trakina, while the Rangers are getting distracted, she's like, well, I'm going green. I'm turning green. I'm gonna hook myself up to all this equipment, and I'm gonna change. And so Olympus is like, well, okay, well, I'm gonna go on and I'm gonna poison Trakina, and we all of a sudden have Trakina, who becomes this big, massive monster that, of course, the Rangers need to go on and need to call for the Omega Megazord. So there's little tiny details that I probably realized that I probably had skipped around about, but like pretty much almost everything else is seemingly covered here. So we have the Omega Megazord, and I'm like, this Zord honestly looks fairly goofy. But whenever I'm to have seen a Lightspeed Rescue Megazord, I was kind of like, it looks okay. It looks okay. I think the Omega Megazord is just okay looking. It's just, anyways. But so, it seems that we are calling on the Omega Megazord, but we also have the Lightspeed Rescue Max Solar Zord Megazord also, which I was like, okay, I've never seen this one before. And like I was like, oh crap, I have to come up with a name with this thing, even though it seems that it's barely used in this show. Still, I have to come up with a name of it. So Trakina is this more demonic looking creature of sorts, because poison. And so we have the Power Rangers Galaxy Rangers that are just like, well, man, like, I wish we could go on and have our Zords out too. And all of a sudden, the Zords then show up and like, oh my god, the Zords are here! Isn't that great? So, the Power Rangers Lost Galaxy Rangers go on and get into their Megazord, which of course, at least the Lost Galaxy Megazord looks somewhat decent compared to the Rescue Zord. But again, I thought that the Megazord things for Lost Galaxy was goofy too. It's like, man, all these Zords just look like crap, but we have to get to this massive battle. So we have the Galaxy Megazord and the Rescue, or the Omega Megazord, going on and trying to attack Trakina, and it seems we have a moment where the Lost Galaxy, or the Galaxy Megazord, is to really get destroyed here, to the point of having our Galaxy Rangers come falling out of the Zord, like we've seen countless times when Rangers would go on and get defeated. So we have the Omega Megazord, who is realized, like, oh my god, we have to save the Lost Galaxy Rangers, and so they cup the Lost Galaxy Rangers up in the Zord's hand and are to kind of pick them up to kind of rescue them from possibly getting, like, stomped on by Trakina. So we all of a sudden have the Lost Galaxy Rangers that are to realize that it's like, well, hey, like, we need to be even more powerful to fight against Trakina. And all of a sudden, we have this kind of glow that happens to the Lost Galaxy Rangers, and it's all tied to the lights of Orion that come in to then put together the Orion Omega Megazord, which combines, like, the Lost Galaxy and the Lightspeed Rescue Rangers together. And so, like, all 5 of these Rangers are all in this cockpit together, and they're wanting to go on and needing to take out Trakina with their attack, with their big attack to go on and destroy Trakina, which of course they do. So by the end of this, after we go on and we have the Rangers defeat Trakina, we really just have both, or no wait, we really had like Heather that reunites with her family after Trakina had died. All of the people that were left in those kind of glass cylinders, they came back to normal. And so Heather got reunited with her family, and Carter goes on to give Heather this badge to say that she's officially a Lightspeed Rescue Ranger. Like, hey, am I going to use this badge ever? Probably not, but hey, at least I got this. So we go on and have, after that good moment, we have both the Rescue Rover and the Jet Jammers go on and just kind of, like, ride off together into the sunset as they're kind of waving to one another, like, yeah, like, see you guys never. Or whenever we do, like, the Forever Red, I'm gonna see one of you. But anyways, so next up, and man, that was a 2-parter, and we covered in 40 minutes. So let's get into the Time Force episode, because now I realize that we're in the Time Force episode. So we have Vampira that is to arise from the grave. And I was like, okay, this is a really cool visual to bring a character back. If only you could go on and just bring every monster back that way. To be like, oh yeah, like, you thought that they were dead, or you thought they were good. No, it doesn't quite work that way. You thought that the whole final countdown thing just turned Rita and Zed and every one of those people just turn them good. Whatever happened in the finale of In Space, no, didn't work out that way. You can never keep a evil person from not being evil. But anyways, so what if that just didn't work? Maybe there were side effects to it. I don't know. It should work out that way. But so, Vapira is to resurrect herself from the grave and is to bring back some demon warriors, which I'm going to go on and state that, again, I'm not clearly of all knowledge, so it says demon warrior here, but someplace might have said that it was something else. But I think from the episode it says demon warrior, or it says warriors, so I'm going to go with that. So, we have Vampira that makes her way with these demon warriors to this museum to try and obtain this solar amulet. And Vampira goes on to try to use this power to try and make her hand go through this case, but when she tries to pull the solar amulet out, she can't pull the solar amulet out and her arm, so she has to leave the solar amulet there. It's like, dude, just break the thing. You're a villain. The Power Rangers are probably going to find that you're doing this anyways, so just break the frickin' thing. But so, Vampira just leaves the thing, and she does not realize that she had set off some silent alarm. And so that brings us Eric Myers, who is the Quantum Ranger, who doesn't morph here. But we have him and a number of other seemingly soldiers here that are working with, I don't know the technical name for these characters, these people that are working along with Eric. The Future Police. So, we have Eric that goes on to try and take down Vipra, and Viper just goes on and states, like, well, hey, I go wherever I want to, and she just vanishes. And so when Wes shows up, he's like, well, hey, man, like, what happened? And we have Eric that's like, well, yeah, like these people just kind of came in and we couldn't get a shot off. And Wes is like, I don't know what this, like, I have a strange feeling about this, that this isn't going to turn out well. So we all of a sudden have Nadira. Nadira is sleeping. She's taking a little snooze, and she all of a sudden wakes up because she hears like a rumbling, which she assumes is a ghost. So Nadira goes on and is talking to Rancic. It's like, well, hey, like, I heard something, and Rancic is to state there's no such thing as a ghost. Like, if you want the Ghostbusters, that's not a real legit thing, so you're effed if we legitimately have a ghost here. So, as both Nadira and Rancic are walking along, we see a bunch of Cyclobots. And so, we have both Rancic and Nadira find out what that noise was, and that, of course, was Vipra. Vipra is to want to go on and ask for Rancic's help to get the solar amulet, because she is to need the perfect sun alignment to channel this super demon. And we have Nadira, who is telling Vipra to get off her chair. That's her place. And so Rancic seems to just be like, okay, like, I think we can go on and partner up. And evidently the super demon name was Quarganon. Quarganon? I know it's stated there, and I didn't say that, it just said super demon, but Quarganon. So, we are now transitioning to the clock tower. We also, for the time Forest Rangers, we also have the Nick of Time Odd Jobs thing that I think is also somewhere by the clock tower, and that's their goofy odd job thing. Let me know in the comments below the most interesting Power Rangers like odd job thing that the Rangers ever had. Uh, that people like either really liked, like I thought it was cool that the Mystic Force had that kind of like record, uh, like those old vinyl record store thing. I thought that that was like okay, like that's a kind of cool idea. I don't see it like lasting for like a good long time, but still like that was kind of cool to just kind of put into the show. And we also had like Jungle Fury, who had a pizza joint, even though I was just kind of like, I don't really like Jungle Fury. I just visually don't like it. But that is what it is. So we have the clock tower. And I think from when I was to state in the Time Force reviews, I was like, this kind of reminds me of the Disney gargoyle thing. So we have the Rangers, and they're realizing, well, like, if they're going into this place, this museum, and they didn't come out with anything, then obviously they're going to go back into the museum to try again. So we're just going to have to go on and like pull a stake out or something and kind of watch that museum, realizing they're going to need to come back. So, and that seems to be their master plan. And we also had Trip, who is kind of looking in to see, it's like, okay, like, they are wanting to take this solar amulet. Why? And also, they're like, well, yeah, Rancic had no need for this, so why is it all of a sudden that Vipra is just so interested? Because he doesn't know any better. So, we have Rancic that goes back to this museum with a cycle bot that goes on to kind of change its fingers to unlock this door. And so they go into this museum, and the Rangers are like, aha! And so the Rangers go on, and they realize that Vipra is in front of the door, and we have her demon warriors that are also there. So while the Time Force Rangers are trying to go on and try and take down Vipra, and the demon warriors are having a very tough time with that, we have Rancic that goes on and takes the solar amulet and pieces out, and they disappear. So we then have Carter Grayson, not Carter Hall, Carter Grayson. I think Carter Hall might have been the Wild Force Red Ranger. You can look that up if you like. But I think there was another Carter Ranger somewhere out there. So Carter shows up, and it's to talk to the Time Force Rangers. And so we have him come in with the rescue rover. So we have Carter go to the clock tower. And so Carter and the Time Force Rangers are to like exchange information. And so Carter is to say, it's like, well, like, I think I can go on and find some people that can go on and help you guys. And they're like, okay, who? So Carter starts making calls. The first person that she ends up calling is Dana, who's the pink Lightspeed Ranger. And she, of course, is to be kind of doctoring some kid. And she ends up getting this call. We end up having both Joel and Fairweather, who are married. And I was like, oh my god, so it did work out at the end. Great. Like, I don't remember this episode so well, so it's interesting to have seen them finally tying the knot. So Joe and Fairweather are to be on their honeymoon, and Joel's like, well, hey, I don't care what happens. Like, we're not gonna leave for anything. We're just gonna leave on our honeymoon. And all of a sudden, we have Joel who gets the call, and Joel's like, okay, what do you need? What do you want? Like, dude, I'm on my freaking honeymoon, but okay, here. So, we all of a sudden find Kelsey, who is rollerblading, and she all of a sudden gets a call. It's like, well, I'm sure she's not exactly busy right now. So, we then have Chad, who's a lifeguard, and he all of a sudden is to get the call. He's like, all right, like, I'm there. So, we have both Carter and Wes that are to try to go on and find Rancic and Vipra. And luckily enough, they end up finding out where they are. And once they go on and they call for the rest of the Rangers to kind of come in to try to take Rancic and Vipra down, we have Wes and Carter that really get outnumbered, so they run off into the rescue rover, and all of a sudden, when they think like, oh, okay, like we've gotten far enough away from them, we find out that instead, we have the Viprairie, the kind of doom buggy thing that Vipra is to always be driving around, is to go on and start blasting at the rescue rover. And we have both Carter and both Wes that are to kind of ditch the rescue rover. We go on to have Rancic, who is to grab Wes, and it's like, like, I gotcha. So, like, where do you think you're going? And so we go on to have the Devil Warriors, who are to go on and be holding on to the Time Force Rangers, as we have both Carter and we have both Wes, who have the solar amulet. And we have Carter who wants to break the solar amulet, but like he ends up handing it over to the villains, and because Viper was trying to go on and summon the Quarganon, and so she finally does go on and do so, and it appears. So we now have the rest of the Lightspeed Rescue Rangers appear, and we of course have the villain side of things. We have Rancic, who's like, well, 10 Rangers, piece of cake. And then all of a sudden Ryan and Eric arrive, who are both the Titanium and Quantum Rangers, and it's like, well, hey, now it's 12. Rancic's like, oh crap. So we have the Demon Warriors who are facing off against the Rangers here, fighting them off. And so we have some pretty good fights here. Kind of like in the Lightspeed Rescue episodes, where we had kind of like the yellow doing the same thing as the other yellow ranger, or we had the blue, or we had the Red Ranger doing kind of like the same things. As like they showcase kind of back to back. Like it's always in every crossover we have to have like both the Color Ranger doing the simultaneously same things. But it doesn't always work that way color scheme wise, but it is what it is. So uh, we have Corganon that is like we really see Wes who gets his freaking like clock cleaned in this episode a lot. We end up getting him kind of chucked and thrown and whatever. We just see him fall a lot, whether it's him or it's his stunt double. Still, he's getting quite a beating in this episode. So that goes on to bring Eric to then morph, and it's a call for his mega battle transformation. And so he does this kind of swipe at the Corganon and kind of takes it down a peg. And so we then have all of the mega battles go on and start doing their transitions. We have the blue mega battle ranger that goes on to transform. We have the green mega battle transformation, and we have both of them, both the mega battles, and I think the pink and yellow blasters go on and try to take out a demon hunter and be successful at it. Then we go on to have the Time Force Rangers take out their Voltex bazookas and fire upon this one demon hunter. And so we have a one point where Wes is going on with, I think, his Chrono Saber, or it kind of looks like it's like a double bladed thing, a double bladed weapon. And so he's fighting with Vipra, and he gets knocked back. So we have finally, like, the Rangers realize it's like, dude, I think we've had enough of this. Like, I think we've tried and we need to go on and finish this up. So, and Corganon is feeling the exact same way. It's like, well, yeah, I'm definitely wanting this to end now. So we have, of course, Carter that switches into the trans armor cycle, which I went on and I saw the episode of that, the first episode of that, previously, and I was like, okay, wait a minute, like, it feels like the armor cycle is to look different than it did in that other episode, but I get it. It's probably like for time they probably sped it up. We also have the Time Force Ranger that calls for the Red Warrior online, and so we have him like get this really cool just smashing of just a bunch of crap all over his body, but it looks pretty sweet though. It looks pretty cool. So we now have in the front of this, we have Wes, who is in his Red Warrior, and then behind him we have the Trans Armor Cycle and the Quantum Mega Battle, and then in the farthest back we have the Blue and Green Mega Battles, and we go on to have all 5 of these Rangers together attack the Corganon and wipe him out with this blast, this big, huge, massive blast. So after that is now defeated, we had Vipra, who was to also go into that blast as well. It wasn't just Corganon, it was also Vipra. So kind of wiped both of them out. And then we had Rancic, we had Nadina, who's like, dude, peacing out, I'm out. So we're now back to the clock tower after the Rangers had won this day. And we have the Rangers want to give one another gifts, as well as also we had the Lightspeed Rescue Rangers kind of complain about how, like, aren't you guys from the future? Like, shouldn't you guys have like some sweet digs? and instead you just have this like crappy clock tower. Man, does that suck. So we all of a sudden have Circuit come flying in, and she's just like, well, hey, like it is what it is, but like why do we need all of it? Like why do we need like this big setup like you guys got with your Aqua base? Man, I wish that's what she would have said. But so we have the Rangers exchange their Power Rangers clothing. So bizarrely, we have the Time Force Rangers that give the Lightspeed Rescue Rangers their future suits. And we have the Lightspeed Rescue Rangers give away their coats to the Time Force Rangers. And so now that all of the Time Force Rangers are wearing the Lightspeed Rescue Rangers, we now have them all go on and have to do the exact same Lightspeed Rescue dance that that the Lightspeed Rescue Rangers would do, because of course Carter calls it's like, okay, now you guys have all the coats, now you guys need to go on and do the dance. So we then again, by the end of this episode, have the rescue rover with all of the Lightspeed Rescue Rangers in it kind of right off in the sunset with all of the Time Force Rangers who are in their vector cycles. And that, of course, is how this episode is to, of course, end. I'm going to try and get out of here. Thank you guys for listening to this, or thank you for really just checking this video out for whatever goofy reason. This was overall pretty fun. I did like these episodes, and it also was pretty interesting because it's like I knew quite a bit about every single one of these Rangers. It didn't feel like I had to like start from scratch and had to like learn about a certain show or a certain thing somewhere, which I've gone on and done in plethora of other different crossovers, where it's like, yeah, I don't remember much about like so-and-so team teaming up with so-and-so team. Like I never really watched much of like Jungle Fury or Wild Force or whichever, which at some point I'm going to have to go on and watch some Wild Force soon, because I know that there's another crossover with Time Force that I think I eventually want to cover. But anyways, I'm going to get out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.